Major General Aisha Thompson adjusted her posture in the driver's seat of her sleek, black SUV as she navigated the familiar streets of Washington, D.C. It was a late summer evening, the kind where the air held a hint of autumn's approach, and Aisha was heading home after a long day at the Pentagon. At 42, she was one of the youngest generals in the U.S. Army, a trailblazer whose career was defined by discipline, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to her country. Her uniform, neatly pressed and adorned with the stars of her rank, rested carefully in the back seat, replaced by a tailored blazer and slacks for the drive. She was used to blending in when off duty, but her presence, sharp, commanding, and unmistakably confident, never went unnoticed. The red and blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror just as she turned onto a quieter stretch of road near her upscale neighborhood. Aisha's brow furrowed slightly, but she remained calm, her hand steady on the wheel. She hadn't been speeding, her tags were up to date, and her vehicle was in pristine condition. Years of military training had honed her ability to stay composed under pressure, and she treated this as just another minor inconvenience. She signaled, pulled over smoothly, and waited, her hands resting visibly at 10 and 2. The patrol car behind her belonged to Officers Daniel Hargrove and Michael Perry, both relatively new to the D.C. police force. Hargrove, a wiry man in his late 20s with a penchant for asserting authority, approached the driver's side window while Perry, stockier and a few years older, hung back near the passenger side, his hand resting casually on his holster. The street was quiet, save for the hum of distant traffic and the occasional chirp of crickets. "Evening, ma'am," Hargrove said, his tone clipped and formal, though his eyes scanned Aisha with a hint of suspicion. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Aisha met his gaze evenly, her voice calm but firm. "No, officer, I don't. I wasn't speeding, and my vehicle is in order. Could you tell me the reason for the stop?" Hargrove's jaw tightened slightly. He wasn't used to being questioned, especially not with such composure. "Your taillight's out," he said, though he hadn't actually checked. It was a line he'd used before, one that usually prompted compliance. "License and registration, please." Aisha's eyes narrowed imperceptibly, but she complied, reaching slowly for her wallet and the glove compartment. She handed over her driver's license and registration, along with her military ID, which she always carried. The card clearly displayed her rank: Major General, U.S. Army. Hargrove glanced at it, then did a double-take, his expression shifting from routine indifference to something harder to read, skepticism perhaps, or disbelief. "This ID real?" he asked, holding it up to the light as if inspecting a counterfeit bill. Aisha's lips pressed into a thin line, but she kept her tone measured. "Yes, officer. It's real. I'm a serving Major General in the United States Army." Hargrove snorted softly, exchanging a glance with Perry, who had stepped closer to the passenger window. "Major General, huh?" Hargrove said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's a new one. Step out of the vehicle, ma'am." Aisha's heart rate ticked up, not out of fear, but out of a growing sense of indignation. She knew this moment all too well, not from personal experience, but from the stories of countless others. She was a black woman in America, and no amount of rank or accomplishment could fully shield her from what was unfolding. Still, she complied, stepping out of the SUV with the same precision she brought to every aspect of her life. She stood tall, her 5 feet 8 inches frame radiating authority, her dark eyes locked on Hargrove's. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, her voice steady but edged with steel. Hargrove didn't answer directly. Instead, he gestured toward the rear of the vehicle. "Hands behind your back. We're detaining you until we can verify your ID." Aisha's breath caught, but she didn't flinch. "Detaining me? On what grounds?" Resisting, Hargrove snapped, though Aisha had done nothing of the sort. "You're being uncooperative. Hands behind your back, now." Perry, sensing the tension, stepped forward, his hand still near his holster. "Just do what he says, ma'am. This doesn't have to be a thing." Aisha's mind raced, calculating her options. She could comply and de-escalate, or she could push back and risk escalation. She chose the former, not because she feared them, but because she knew the system, knew how quickly things could spiral for someone who looked like her. She placed her hands behind her back, and Hargrove snapped the cuffs on tighter than necessary. The cold metal bit into her wrists, a sensation that felt like a violation of everything she stood for. As they led her toward the patrol car, Aisha's voice remained calm, almost eerily so. "You're making a mistake," she said. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Hargrove smirked, opening the back door of the cruiser. "Yeah, we get that a lot. Save it for the station." Inside the patrol car, Aisha sat silently, her mind already shifting to what came next. She wasn't just any officer. She was a major general with direct access to the highest echelons of the military. She had spent 2 decades climbing the ranks, earning her stars through deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, strategic planning in the Pentagon, and countless sleepless nights proving her worth in a world that often doubted her. She wasn't about to let 2 misguided officers tarnish her dignity. At the station, Hargrove and Perry booked her on charges of resisting arrest and providing false identification, a move they justified to themselves as routine procedure. Aisha, still cuffed, was led to a holding area, where she sat on a hard bench, her posture as impeccable as ever. The other officers at the station paid little attention, assuming she was just another detainee. But Aisha was already formulating her next move. "Officer," she said to the desk sergeant, a middle-aged man who barely looked up from his paperwork, "I need to make a phone call." The sergeant sighed, sliding a phone across the counter. "1 call. Make it quick." Aisha didn't hesitate. She dialed a number she knew by heart, one that connected directly to the office of General Raymond Carter, the Army Chief of Staff. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Carter," the general said gruffly. "General Carter, this is Major General Aisha Thompson," she said, her voice clear and authoritative. "I'm currently detained at the 4th District Police Station in Washington, D.C., on baseless charges. I need your assistance." There was a brief pause on the other end, followed by a sharp intake of breath. "Aisha, what the hell happened?" She recounted the events briefly, her tone factual but laced with controlled fury. "2 officers pulled me over, claimed my taillight was out, and detained me when I provided my military ID. They've charged me with resisting arrest and false identification." Carter's voice hardened. "Stay put. I'm handling this." Within minutes, the atmosphere at the station shifted. The desk sergeant's phone rang, and his face paled as he listened to the voice on the other end. He glanced at Aisha, then at Hargrove and Perry, who were lingering near the coffee machine, unaware of the storm about to break. Officers," the sergeant said, his voice unsteady. "You 2 in my office. Now."